Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink was provided by the wonderful, mysterious benefactor when I was sent the Levenger sample pack. Today's ink is Empyrean, which, as you might be able to tell, Blue Bahama was kind of like their light blue, their turquoise. I'd say their Skies of Blue was sort of their nice medium blue. Cobalt was sort of like a deep, richer blue. And I'd say this was kind of like their navy, their very dark blue. And again, the way this works is you get 0.5 milliliter of ink in a cartridge. And so I didn't realize just how little that ink was until I started really liking these inks, and this was probably one of my favorites of the group. It's a lovely dark blue. The performance was great when it was fresh, to the point where, again, I had to make myself stop using it so I'd have enough to do the tests, and of course, after leaving it for about a week in the pen, it went severely downhill. So while the performance here is not as good as it can be, I feel like I can still post this test just to show what can happen with this ink if you let it mature. So, yeah, all the tests were done in this Knox Galileo with a medium nib. I'd say it's a pretty standard medium nib. It's not overly wet or overly dry. It is a European medium, I'd say that. Let's check out the chromatography. Now, as you can see, you can definitely tell where that initial drop was put. You do get a sort of a lighter, almost like a sky blue, and it goes into sort of a more medium blue, and then you get almost like these hints of, just teeniest hints of green through here. It's very dark up the top, and I don't know if the camera's going to catch this, but you actually get sheen right along the edge. Now, here's where I let it dry, where pretty much the only difference is the dot got darker. There's less sort of a stratification between the different blues, and here it almost looks more purple, but you still get sheen way up at the top. Alright, top down in density, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. Try and hold this still. Yep, it's a lovely blue. I really like this blue. I was really enjoying it. Now, you do get shading, as you can see in the scrubby, but also, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but you get red sheen in there as well, and you get it in the writing too. Do you see all that? See all that red flash? So yeah, it definitely sheens, and that was something that it was doing even before it aged. So this is a sheener. But yeah, the performance isn't great. Let's look at the top of this L. Let's bring it in real close. See that? Oh, and you can even see it there too. Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, you get some feathering. You don't get a lot of spread per se, but yeah, and then right up at the top, you almost get some bleed. But again, this is the edge of the paper, so maybe a grain of salt. As for echo, this is very dense paper, even though this is very dark ink, so you don't get any echo really. Now, this color of blue is also quite lovely, but it also makes a mess. So yeah, really dyed the page. Washed a lot of it off. It did feather and explode a bit. Not really what you want to see. Now, next up is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. Or again, well, here you don't get quite as much shading, you get a tiny bit. Took 20 seconds to dry, which is a bit long for a medium that isn't overly wet, but yeah. Here you still get a lot of sheen, but oddly you get it more in the words. I don't know if I'm going to get this on camera, but yeah, so, and you most definitely get feathering, which is not awesome, but yeah, to be considered. Very near bleed, and again, this is, this isn't anything extreme. It's a European medium. It's not overly wet. Not what you like to see. There's not really any spread unless you count, the lateral of the feathers, but yeah, you do get a lot of feathering and explosion that absolutely dyed the page. Again, really not what you want to see. Now next up is Tomoe River, which is just like pure sheen. It actually, on here, it almost looks like Diamine's Sargasso Sea. I mean, look at all that red. It's just everywhere. It did sheen before it aged, but here it just went nuts. I mean, here it's every single centimeter. But what I like about this more than Sargasso Sea actually has a purple to it. This is definitely a deep, rich blue, and I kind of like that. It sort of highlights the difference when you do catch eye of that sheen. However, it did take more than 30 seconds to dry. That doesn't really surprise me because this is a very saturated ink. It has a lot of stuff in it, and this paper is very hydrophobic. So it's trying to soak in the water, but it's got all these particulates in it sort of slowing it down. But those particulates are just resting on the surface. That's kind of what causes that sheen. But that also means when you add more water, you are going to get a mess, which is certainly what you got here. It really dyed the page. Now, this paper loves to just let ink wash away when you add more water. And it really did. There's not a lot left. You can barely see what was there. And it made a mess, but it didn't feather, it didn't explode. Now, there's no bleed. And you definitely wouldn't generally see that on Tomoe River, but this ink is very dark and this paper is very thin. So echo would be something to be aware of if you're someone who likes to write on both sides of the paper. World's worst 20-pound copier paper. It's a indisputed disaster. Look at the insane spread. Look at how much broader that line got. And then I'm going to bring this in close because you need to see this. It absolutely just imploded. There's not really, I'd say there's no shading whatsoever. It had trouble keeping up with the absorbency of the paper, which was kind of surprising. I'd say this was I'd say it's a 5 out of 10, maybe a 5.5 overall in flow. But yeah, but look at this. This looks like something out of like Sesame Street or Jim Henson's Workshop, some like weird feathery monster creature. Yeah, it's a mess. Absolutely exploded, feathered. You would not, I mean, I wrote that and I barely know what that says. Yeah, really not what you want to see. Next up is Mead Notebook Paper, where it is not nearly as bad as it was on the 20-pound copier paper, but it is not great. You do definitely get some feathering. You get a very distinct woolliness throughout. You don't really get any shading. It took 1.5 seconds to dry. Now, this paper is, like, physically thinner than the 20-pound paper, so this very significant show through, because if you see, it doesn't actually make it to the other side, but it does sink all the way into the paper. So, yeah, there would be no writing on both sides. And again, this looks like something out of Jim Henson's Creature Shop. It's just absolutely feathered and exploded. It dyed the page. It made a mess. Paper freaked out. Now, lastly, is Moleskine notebook paper, which I hate. Yeah, I'm just going to say it. I hate it. It's infuriating. It's very poorly behaved. And with an ink already this disruptive, you're going to get very bad results, and you do. You get a great deal of spread, you get a great deal of feathering, you get, I mean, it takes on this like wet wool texture, but like if wet wool was sentient and growing, I mean, it's weird. You almost get shading, I guess you could say. I mean, it's like 2% shading, but 6 seconds to dry, which I cannot explain because this is obviously very absorbent paper, because it absorbed right through to the other side. It made it all the way through in several spots. This is more than just significant echo. Not what you want to see. And that is insane. I have no words for that. That's nuts. So, yeah. There you go. There's Levenger's Empyrean. It's a lovely shade of blue. When it's fresh, it is wonderfully well behaved. Maybe don't leave it in the pen for long. On Tomoe River, it sheens beautifully. It has a wonderful color. I really love this color. I'm still thinking about getting a bottle. However, I don't I don't usually buy bottles anymore. I put my money towards samples so I can do more reviews. But yeah, it's definitely for consideration. This and Forest was also really lovely. I loved Forest from the Levenger set. Cocoa was quite unique. Skies of Blue was lovely. But yeah, so there you go. There's Levenger's Empyrean for your consideration from the Triple N Network. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.